mergers, cartels, and trade abusers in Competition Commission of Pakistan. She has also worked as adjunct faculty development studies department in Ikra University, Islamabad, and she has also worked as research analyst, research development and monitoring unit, PPAF. And now I'll hand over. I leave the floor open for Alize to start the session.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It's so good to be here. My name is Aliza Khalik, and I'll just give you, before I move on to the topic, I'll just give you a brief background to what I've been doing and how I got here. That will give you some sense of, my learnings from my journey. And that's what we're here to talk about today, time management and productivity and all of that. So I did my undergrad from LUMS long time ago, a long time ago in economics. After that, I moved to England to do my master's in economics from University of Leicester. Um, and then I came back. I worked for the development sector for a little while. Just like all new graduates, I was so excited about the development sector. I was so pumped. I was like, I'm going to help people. You have that enthusiasm of a new graduate. Um, and that wears off pretty quickly, right? So I sort of got a little disillusioned with the development sector, so to say. Even though PPAF was such an amazing organization to work for, they're so huge. They work all over Pakistan, but I was left a little unsatisfied with just writing reports and all of that. So I decided to look for other opportunities, and that's when I came across Competition Commission of Pakistan, which is the antitrust body in the country. Um, there I got to work in multiple departments, which was very interesting. I worked in cartels, trade abuses. I worked in the international affairs department. So thoda sa jo economics ka knowledge tha that sort of came to use, when you're doing a market analysis and competition and all of that. But eventually, obviously, that is also government sector. So it's usme growth progression thodi si slow hoti hai. It's not as the at the pace or the level that you hope that you would be doing, right? There's little room to grow. There's little room to do sort of things that you would want to do. So you have to follow that hierarchy and that work that is given to you. उसमें innovation की बहुत ही कम जगह है. There's very little like wiggle room. Um, so that's when I decided, okay, like I need to do some, further study or something like that. Um, and I decided to go with public sociology rather than economics. और उसकी सबसे बड़ी रीज़न ये है कि आपको इकोनॉमिक्स जो थोड़ी सी पाकिस्तान में हम पढ़ते हैं जो बाहर पढ़ते हैं उसमें बहुत फ़र्क है. The economics that we study abroad is all quantitative and it's all numbers. There's no theory in it, hardly any, very little. Most of it is predicated on numbers and large scale modeling, right? Large scale economic modeling. And that's something that I didn't want to do, even though I have no issues with doing modeling and all of that. But I wanted to explore like other avenues. So, which is why I came across a program while I was just browsing the internet. I looked at programs, PhD programs here and there. I thought, looked at कि क्या चीज़ अच्छी लगेगी, क्या करना चाहिए. So I came across this program called Public Sociology, PhD in Public Sociology. And it was so interesting. It was so fascinating to me. I was like, what is this? And I was like, okay, I will explore this a little more. So I sent them a random email. Sitting in my office one day, I just sent them a random email. Um, and the professor who organized this department, he reached out to me like literally within minutes. He responded. And I was like, wow, you know. And that was so like gratifying to me. I just sent a random email and the head of the department is emailing back to me and responding to my questions. तो वो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा. It gave me like a lot of hope कि यार, okay, this is something that, this is a program that might be a good fit for me. Um, So that was an initial conversation with him, and that sort of spiraled into multiple emails over like months. And, obviously, the process of getting into a PhD is really tough. There's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of stuff that you have to do. So I went through all of that, which was spread over like almost a year, year and a half, more than a year and a half, I would say. Back and forth, paperwork, documentation, requirements, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, I actually landed in the US in 2017 in that program. And the professor who had responded to me, he was so old, he initiated the program, but he was retiring. So I didn't really get to study with him much, but there were so many other professors who were so welcoming. The department was so welcoming. They were so like, encouraging of international students. So I basically started doing, they gave me a TA-ship, which means that I was working with two professors and I was attending their lectures, helping with their classes, also conducting tutorials, also grading their assignments. So initially it was a lot. As a new student who's just come in, to a new country, you don't even know your way around. Bus kahan se milegi aur kahan jana hai aur grocery kahan se karni hai. Uske darmiyan, I was like bombarded with work. Working for two students, two professors, doing my own classes, figuring out कि कहाँ रहना है और किधर जाना है और यूनिवर्सिटी के सारे जगह ढूंढना कि I the first day I got lost. I was like, I don't even know where to go. Where's my class? And I was a couple of minutes late, and everybody was sitting there, and they were just staring at me. Like, what is going on, lady? Why are you late? तो आपको बड़ा वो realize होता है कि wow, okay, they do work very professionally, and you can't be even 2 minutes late. I was literally 2 to 3 minutes late, and everybody was just looking at my face like, what? um, तो it's really like आपको काफी एक शौक सा मिलता है कि इतना काम भी करना है मैनेज भी करना है. So the reason I tell you this story is because it taught me a lot. It taught me time management, which brings us to our topic today. The professor that I was teaching for, he was also my professor, so he was teaching me as well another course, and then I was his TA as well for another course, which was statistics. तो हमारा काफी interaction होता था. So he told me, he said, "Okay, Lisa, have you done the readings for tomorrow?" I was like, "I'm still doing the readings. I'll do them by tomorrow. I'll take another day." And then he said that, "Have you graded the assignments?" I said, "I'm still grading the assignments. I'll take another day and I'll do them." And he was like, "Elisa, how many days are you going to spend doing the readings?" I was like, "I don't know." They're pretty long. So he said, "Elisa, you have to set a time limit for yourself. If you're going to spend 3 days on one reading, if you're going to spend 3 days on grading the assignments, we had assignments to grade like every week, like twice a week. So he was like, if you spend all your time reading and then all your time grading the assignments, how are you going to get everything else done in your life? What about your work life balance, right? When are you going to sleep? When are you going to eat? When are you going to attend your classes? So he really taught me a valuable lesson. He was like, you have to work, you have to study, you have to live as well, right? He was like, don't go home and keep reading in the middle of the night. No, he was like, start early in the morning, set a time limit for yourself, 2 hours, 3 hours, however much you need, and then get your job done by that time. He was like, similarly for grading assignments as well, set a time limit कि 2 घंटे इसमें ख़त्म करनी है, and then you move on to the next task. And then he was like, close your books by the end of the night and then just relax because you need some time off. You need a breather, right? You need to be, away from books for a little bit as well. So I think that time blocking and that time management was a very, very key essential skill that I got early on in my PhD from him. That was very, very helpful. बाद में, when I started teaching myself, because I was teaching two courses, and then I was doing my own work as well. I was taking my classes. I was doing my own research as well. That time management skill really helped. So I used to block time for, okay, this is allocated for my studying. This time is allocated for my grading and other activities, right? Um, and on the weekend, I used to take like one day off. And then the way that I would schedule my day was I would try to do the most important activities early on in the morning and then do the rest throughout the day. So this, I think, as a PhD student, it will help you in life as well, not just as a PhD student or as a professor, but these are skills that help you in life, right? How to prioritize and how to time block, how to maintain that healthy balance between, your work life and your home life. You don't want to neglect your work life or your home life, right? So that healthy balance is extremely important, especially living in America where the life is so fast. Productivity is expected of you everywhere you go. You have to perform your best, you have to be on time. So it's extremely essential that you learn these skills. And I'm very grateful to my professor that he taught me this early on. And that was a very valuable lesson. The other key thing, the other key thing that I learned from my PhD journey was the importance of networking. I think it's extremely important. So people ask me all the time, how do we're applying for a PhD, we're not getting in, how do we get in? What are we missing? They have the grades, they have the scores, they have everything, but they're like, we're not getting in, right? So I always tell them, whether it's a job, whether it's PhD, whether it's something else, networking is important. You need to know people, talk to them, get information from them, right? Um, Even if you have to send a cold email to somebody, you should, but don't make it sound like, oh, here is my CV. Can you please hire me, or I want this job, right? That's not the kind of an email that people want to hear or professors want to receive, right? They want to see genuinely that you're interested. And I think that is what my email prompted my professor to do. He thought, oh, this is a girl who's really interested in this program. And I was genuinely interested. I had no idea what the program was about. And so I was just asking him questions to know more about it. Um, and I think that kind of curiosity helped me. And he said, okay, we will take you in the program and we'll give you some fun, we'll fund you. Even though they get like loads and loads of applications. So it's really important. It's very, very, very competitive. It's a very, very competitive world to just get in and to then perform and to show that, yes, you are worthy of continuing in the program. Because I've seen over the years, lots of people, they don't continue, they leave. Some of them don't get funding, some of them leave on their own, some of them finding too challenging to continue. So even in our program, I think more probably 50% of the people didn't complete their PhD for one reason or the other. Some people have personal reasons as well. So, we respect that, but you have to like give it your best effort. And I think both of these skills, networking and time management, are essentially, key in progressing in your PhD journey as well as your job as well. So I think that's extremely important. You have to talk to people, get more information. Finding the right person at the right time is extremely important. Um, Learning more about what you want to do, if you want to pursue a particular industry, for instance, it's always a good idea to have more information about it. Talk to people, talk to your peers, talk to people who are in the industry, talk to people who are seniors in that industry. So it's extremely important that you reach out to people, have conversation, get more and more information that will help you in applying and looking for jobs, looking for a PhD, whatever you want to do, right? So these are skills that will help you in any field. Um, so I think the reason I tell you a little bit about my journey is because I think you can, sort of learn or pick up some learnings that I had along the way on my PhD. And I think it's extremely important that you're cognizant of what you want to do. The other thing I think that I learned from my journey and from PhD is also that it's a good idea. America is very focused on specialization. So you have to figure out what you want to do and which field or which subfield. They're very extremely focused. So which subfield do you want to specialize in, right? When I entered the PhD program, I had a general idea, which I also gave in my personal statement. But in most cases that general idea is not enough. Ask you, okay, what do you want to do, right? What is your research? What do you want to do? And initially when I entered the program, I was like, I had no clue. I would just give like generic answers, and I was like, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that. So obviously it's a journey. Whatever you come in with, you will not be doing that. Most probably you will be doing something else, but you need to have some sort of idea of what you want to do, and then you can kind of tailor your journey towards that. um, and then you don't have to start from scratch. So one of the reasons I was given a teaching job, which normally PhD students don't get to teach their own courses, but I was given two courses to teach in my second year of PhD, which is extremely rare, was because I was teaching before as well in Islamabad. So I taught in Ikra for 5 years. And that teaching experience, even though I was teaching in the evening, I was working in CCP in the morning. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, at that time, I was like, oh my God, like, why am I doing all of this? But then God had a different plan. So, as when I landed in America, they were like, you've already been teaching, you can teach your own course, you don't have to be a TA anymore. And I was like, okay. So, everything that you're doing to sort of add to your skills. And I was teaching back then just because, like, I wanted to try out teaching. It wasn't something that was, obligatory or something. I was just interested, and I thought, there's an opportunity, I should take it. But eventually it really helped me, and they gave me a course to teach. So working on your skill set is also extremely important. If, for instance, if I was not teaching before, I didn't have that experience, I probably would not have gotten a teaching job in my second year of PhD. And then everybody used to ask me, he was like, how can you get a teaching job? And I was like, I've been teaching before, I have like 5 years of teaching experience. So that helped. And so my third point was that you have to work on yourself. You have to work on your skill set. It's not just that you've done a master's, or even if you've done a PhD. That's not enough, because almost everybody has done that, right? How will you stand out? So how are you going to break through, right? So you need to have additional skill set. You need to work on yourself. In whichever field you are, you need to figure out, okay, what are the additional skills that are required to excel in this field, right? What are the additional requirements? How can I stand out from the group? Um, so you have to continuously working on yourself. That was extremely important. I'll stop there. I've gone on for about half an hour. So I think I'll stop there. If anybody has any questions, any concerns, you want to ask me more, I'm here to answer your questions.
Thank you, Elise. Guys, do you have any questions regarding, how to manage your time? Or maybe I have a question, Elise.
Sure.
Elise, I'm also I also struggle with time management more often.
Hmm.
So my teammate has been telling me about time blocking.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Can you tell me more about time blocking? Like I'm really struggling. So yeah, I'll
So
need your guidance.
time blocking is extremely important. What I do is usually I would, because in the initial years of my PhD, I had such limited time. I had to take classes. I had to be a TA, like I had to attend classes of my professors. Then I had to keep office hours. And then I had to check assignments. So what I used to do was I used to divide my day. Okay, 9 to 12 I'm going to take my classes, and then 12 to 1 I'm going to hold my office hours, then attend my professor's class, and then grade the assignments for the other 2 hours. And that's how I used to prioritize, like my classes in the beginning, because and then my office hours, then my grading, then my professor's classes, right? So time blocking, you should try to prioritize the most important thing early on in the morning, because that's when you wake up, you're fresh, right? Your mind is fresh. So if you think that the most important task for you is to write something or write some emails or do some research of your own, try to do that in the morning. You would say, okay, 2 hours for my research or 2 hours for my own kind of work, whatever it may be. And then move on to other tasks, like, okay, another hour for this work, another hour for this work. And there have been times in the initial years where I blocked like literally 15 minutes. I've been like 15 minutes on this, 15 minutes on that, because I was so swamped with work, right? So my calendar, what I used to do was I used to open my phone's calendar and I used to block, okay, this, 15 minutes literally for each and everything. And I used to have like loads of bullet points in my calendar, and that would help me keep on track. I still do that. If I show you my calendar is full. I do like whenever somebody asks me, can we have a meeting or something, I open my calendar because I have to see what like time slot is available. And that's just the reality of life here. You're so busy, you have so many things to do. I'm involved in so many things, I'm teaching and all of that. So if I don't do that, I would be a mess. I would be all over the place, right? So you can do that in your calendar or whatever is convenient for you, you know.
Thank you, Elise. Okay, guys, do you have any questions? Okay, we'll follow a 10-second rule. Okay, so we have questions in the chat.
Let me try.
I
In
can
case
read
you
it out.
don't have, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Exogenous factors such as one's mood messes up the schedule, one prepares what should. Okay, so extremely important question, right? Extremely important. While you're doing everything, life happens, right? Life happens to all of us. You know, things happen, your mood is not going well, your day is not going well. Um, I'll give you a personal example. I had two kids while I was doing my PhD, right? And my kids are both still toddlers, right? So, you know, life happens and you have to manage. I was in the hospital while I was grading papers. So that's how much effort was put in from my part. I was in the hospital bed and I was like grading my papers because it was the end of the semester and I had to submit the papers in. That was the deadline. There was no other way to do it, right? So life happens. I understand you have to take some time for yourself, but you still have to keep going. You still have to stick to your schedule. The only way to success is discipline, right? I just feel that there's just no shortcut. There's just no shortcut. You have to keep going. You have to discipline yourself. You have to set goals for yourself. Um, the task that you set for yourself, you have to try, give it your best shot. If it doesn't work out, it's fine, but give it your best shot, right? um, my professors, I couldn't take the semester off, you know, so I had to do what I had to do. I just did it, right? And I took some time off afterwards, but at that time I had to meet the deadline and there was just no other way to do it. It was the university's deadline, or all of my students' grades would have been late. They wouldn't have been able to graduate. So that's how you have to keep going, even despite other things. And this is important because my professor, what he used to say was, okay, if you're working hard 5, 6 days a week, take one day off, right? Take Sunday completely off. Just go and sit, have tea, take a walk, whatever you want to do, go to the shopping mall. So it's important to give yourself breaks, otherwise, you will be burnt out and then you will be frustrated, right? So it's important that you work hard, but also give yourself a little time to cool down, you know? The other question is, what calendar apps do you use? Do you use time management? So no, I don't use any calendar. So basically, I just use my iPhone's calendar. I just have like, I just put in everything, all my tasks, all my meetings, activities, which is why you'll see that I have like loads and loads and loads of bullets each day on my iPhone calendar. So that's what I use. But I think you can use any or anything. And also because I forget things, because there's so many things, so I try to note them as immediately as possible so that I don't forget them later on.
All right, guys, do you have any other questions before we end this amazing session? Umar. Umar has a question.
Where did you complete your PhD from? I just graduated from George Mason University, and I have taken up a position. I'm now visiting professor at Loyola University, Maryland. So I just graduated, yep, from George Mason, yep. And I was
Yes.
offered a job even before I graduated, but I'm glad that I'm done.
Okay, Arsalan Tahir has a question.
Hi, Lise. It was a great session. The question that I have been mostly encountered from the corporate people and even the entrepreneurs as well, which is I have been there in that place as well because currently I'm doing MBA from LUMS. So the question that has been raised is the work-life balance, which most of the people have never been able to answer it completely. It's like they need some magic trick to let it happen because nowadays it's more like we have to stay health conscious as well, and along with that we have to manage the corporate timings like from 9 to 6, or it goes on and on. Because once you are working with the big giant groups like PNG and RB, so they don't lay you off easily, like even after 5 p.m you have to keep working for them. So how about you can suggest some techniques or some ways that can help us, me especially, if I want to, manage my extracurricular activities along with the work as well. So have you been following since your undergrad program, or you have realized on the later stages?
That's an excellent question, and that's something that we all struggle with. So, I think, have you read the book Atomic Habits?
Well, I
It's
have read the summary. I've always encouraged myself to do that, but in the program, I have been going through a lot of cases. So, yeah, I think you are here. I can see some atomic habits from the real life person.
Yeah, so my only point was that you have to make small changes. You have to do whatever you can. Even if you're taking, for instance, what we started doing was like I used to take the lift, but what I started doing was I started taking the stairs. I was like, if up going up and down, I'm just going to take the stairs. These are small things. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to take my car in during lunchtime. I was like, I'm not going to take my car to the cafeteria. George Mason is a huge university, right? Walking from one side to the other building is literally like 20-minute, 25-minute walk. So that's what I started doing. I was like, in lunchtime, I'm not going to take my car. I'm just going to walk, right? And it'll just give me time to walk and breathe outside, right? Um, so it's important to, make these small, tiny changes. Even if you can work out like for half an hour on the weekend, if you can't do it during the weekdays, do that, because that will help you in the long run, right? I started in the initial years, I started drinking a lot of coffee because I had to be awake, I had to do so much work. I started drinking like 5, 6 cups of like coffee, and that really impacted my health. And then I reduced that. I was like, okay, I'm just going to have 1 cup of coffee in the morning, and then I'll have green tea from then onwards, because you still need something, right, to keep you going. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to have green tea. So you have to make these like small changes in your schedule, in your day. And trust me, they help, they add up. A year later, you'll feel the difference. You won't feel the difference in 2 days, but a year later, you will feel the difference. Um, Usually throughout the day, I'm on my laptop, on my phone, but when I sit down to have dinner with my kids, I don't use any device just so that I can give them some quality time. So you have to make these changes wherever you can. And it's tough. It's not easy. It's tough for everybody. So we're all in the same boat with that.
Muhammad Sahib has a question.
Thank you so much for this session. My question is related to the time management. Um, because sometimes when the tasks on your calendar become overwhelming, what's your strategy? What should be done? Like sometimes we set tasks and goals we have to do, but sometimes they become overwhelming. So what should be done? What are your tips or strategies you can give us?
Mm-hmm. So, see, you have to set realistic goals for yourself, right? You can't say, okay, okay, I'm going to lose 10 pounds in 2 days. No, that's not possible, right? Set realistic goals for yourself. Say, okay, I'm going to give myself a month to do this, and that will not destroy your mental health then. If you say, I'm going to do all of this in today, that's not going to happen, right? So, the task that you set for yourself, be realistic about it. If you need 2 hours to read a paper, take like 2 hours, but then time yourself. Don't take beyond 2 hours, right? If you need 1 hour for your emails or whatever, take 1 hour, but then don't go beyond that. So be a little realistic. Don't be so hard on yourself that you kill yourself, right? You want to also have a healthy mental health. That's the whole point, that you want to have a healthy life. So don't kill yourself over doing everything. Just try to be realistic. If you can't complete something today, spread them over 2 days, right? I think there was another question.
Any other question? I don't see any hand raised. Okay. So I assume there's no other question. Alicia has pretty much explained everything. So yeah, thank you so much, Alize, for taking time out of your busy schedule and for this amazing and insightful session.
Thank you so
And
much. I had so much time doing it. And also, like, I mean, I'm willing to answer questions. Like, I can share my LinkedIn page as well. So we can connect later as well. So that's not a problem at all.
yeah, sure, sure. Thank you so much for your presence, everybody. Have a very, very good night here. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Good day.
Okay, love this.
Love is.
Goodbye.